Welcome, everyone, to another episode for Unravel Your Mind. We're here to transcend and transform our relationships to love and life. So there's many questions that came in this last week. There's so much going on energetically. I'm really excited to answer the things that are on your mind. So if there's anyone else that's calling in live and you have an additional question, please put it in the chat. If for some reason we don't get to you, I certainly will answer it next week. So yes, bring everything that you want to unravel, anything having to do with transforming relationships to love and life. So let's jump in and get started. I'm going to take a look here at the chat and see what we've got. There's some things that were also pre-submitted. So
Lots of good stuff. Let me just look here. I think, well, let's start with this one. So the last few months have been really difficult for me emotionally. How are you navigating the energies at play? Well, I think that's a great question because there is so much happening right now. There is lots of energies that I think can be perceived as negative or bad, or emotions that perhaps we're feeling that keep us really just in the feeling. I know being in Southern California, the weather hasn't been helping either. It's been really gloomy, and in the last couple of days, it's gotten really sunny and bright. But it is really a call to go inward. It's that inner wisdom, that soul nudge that is getting you right now. And a lot of it is digging deep into the archives of your subconscious mind because there's a lot coming up. I think it's a great time right now in humanity because of this. It doesn't feel so great all the time, but we are being offered an opportunity to really feel into what it is that's up for observation and release. So we want to welcome these feelings and emotions, as terrible as sometimes they feel, and really sit with them. Not wallow in them, big difference, but sit with them, sit with these emotions that are coming up, and ask yourself the question, what is this? And explore it. I'd also highly recommend, in addition to welcoming it, because if you shove it down, it just goes deeper and it just comes up bigger the next time. I also recommend that you get that journal out, that notebook, and you just start scribing. I call it remote writing. It's my way of really connecting into source, connecting into my own inner wisdom, my higher self, and also just calling for your guides. This is something that I think is underestimated sometimes. I know that there was a period in my life where I was very connected to my guides, and then there was a period where I didn't spend as much time with my guides. I felt connected all the time. And I don't want to say that I got cocky about it because I didn't, but I just thought, well, I just want to go to the true north. And what I've come back to realizing is that it really is important to be connecting with our guides and getting wisdom and insights from our guides. And yes, it is a projection. These guides are projections of our higher self, but between here and oneness, there's a lot going on. And our minds aren't always equipped to our spirit, our soul. Everything isn't always 100% all tuned in and tapped in. And so accessing our guides helps to just take away some of that fuzziness and that feeling that things aren't clear, because then you're just getting around the mind and you're actually getting to your soul's plan and your soul's voice and the nudges that it's asking you to make. So action to take. And that's where the inspired action really comes from, is when we're connected and we're journaling and we're getting those hits about what should I do, or how can I shift something? How do I feel about this? It can really help you get into the deeper meaning behind why you're feeling this way. Lots of wounds coming up right now. I think one of the biggest wounds that I'm seeing for myself and for many others in my soul circle here is that big wound, like the wound of separation. And it's separation from source. It's the idea that we think we're alone in the universe. Even when we know we're not alone in the universe, we still experience this wound. Why? Because source is calling us to be closer in connection every day and in every moment, to be acting out of our soul's plan and not our ego's plan. So it's a really important practice. It's a practice that is really in every moment of now, because it's being present and it's really listening to our higher guidance, and it's feeling into our body. Like a lot of times we don't realize that our body is communicating to us all the time. I look at my beautiful little Bali dog, Miss Lily. She's listening and tuning into her body all the time. She can tell when an earthquake's coming before it even hits, because she's in that real sweet spot of being connected with the energy of Mother Nature and source, to where she's so sensitive that she gets stuff before it even shows up. She knows when a friend is coming over, when they're approaching my house. She reads my mind for one, but then she actually can tell when they're getting closer to the house. And so we may not have that ability to tune in quite that well at this point, but you can get there. So I just encourage you to really work on that, really work with your guides, ask for the guidance, ask for the show me, and try to get rid of the I, how do I do this? And instead say, show me. Because then you're not so much in the doing, like I need to do this, and you're more in the being of show me and help me to experience what it is and why it is that I've brought this feeling or emotion or situation into my life. So I hope that answers that question. There's a lot of things, a lot of tips, tools, techniques that I also do beyond remote writing and beyond connecting to my guides. But I think for now, that probably answers the question. And there's also in the Awakening and Healing Handbook on bethbell.me that you can always go. Lots of tips and tools, techniques in there as well. So any other questions that are coming in? Let's take a look here. Okay, so this one is, you mentioned in your book that you haven't had a TV since 2005. Would you share more about the benefits you think there are not having one? Because I find that watching TV helps me relax and get out of my head. It helps me shift away from my own stories and makes me feel good. Okay, I got it. I understand the point. Yeah, I'm a big no TV person. I just find that my household and the energy of my household is so much more peaceful, because in 2005, when I realized that I was just infiltrating my mind with so many things, watching the news, you think, oh, I got to stay updated. On one hand, that's probably not a terrible idea, but it is that you get infiltrated with stuff that you really don't need to be worrying about, and your subconscious mind doesn't need to get exposed to. Every injury and car crash and tragedy that's happening, it's all going through your subconscious mind. Even if it's just playing in the background, there's an energy line that's coming through. So I like to encourage people to just ditch the TV, ditch, staying online for hours and hours and watching how the AI wants to navigate you down these roads. The other topic about, TV, Netflix, whatever, that I often have a lot of controversy around when I talk about this, but I really do think that we should really use a lot of discernment when it comes to the types of programs that we're watching. Why? Because yes, your mind is relaxed, and yes, it is a way to sort of feel good, but depending upon the type of program that you're watching, you may be just programming your subconscious mind with a bunch of crap and a bunch of ideas that are not serving your higher good, not motivating you, not helping you with your purpose, not putting you on your soul's plan, but perhaps keeping you more on your ego's plan of needing to fit in a certain way, to have certain things, to experience life in a certain way, when we miss out then on some of the moments that are happening right here, right now. And the beauty of what that is, like the real, like in your body, I don't know, I'm going like this with my hand, but it just feels like, the in your body feelings. And when we just allow our mind to mesmerize us with maybe less than ideal storylines on, Netflix or some of these other stations that have a lot of storylines that just aren't of high vibration. So I would offer that if you want to sit and just have a quiet night and laugh about something, or there's so many different programs, there's so many different places that you can go to that have high vibe programming, right? It could be something like Gaia, where there's a lot of informational stuff, but there's also entertainment there. But it's entertainment in a way that's really connected to your higher self and to your life's journey, as opposed to just numbing you. The other thing I like to say is, if you are watching TV, be present with what you're watching, use discernment, and don't do the other unconscious behaviors like eating or drinking. I think we've just become this multitasking society that we can't actually enjoy some of the things that we're doing, because we're doing so many things at one time. So if you want to have a glass of wine, then perhaps enjoy the glass of wine and taste the wine and the flavors and the bouquet and the aroma, and really feel into that. Feel into the person that you may be drinking the glass of wine with, and experience it like tactily in your mouth, in your taste buds. Instead, a lot of times, and Train says yes on this, a lot of times we're just drinking and watching and numbing ourselves. And so that's not what it's about. It's not about numbing ourselves. It's not about shutting down all of these beautiful sensory systems that we have in our human body. It's about waking our cells up. It's about, feeling good in our bodies. It's about, feeling and really feeling in, and not just allowing something out there, a projection out there on Netflix, or I'm picking on Netflix today, but I just mean any of those programs, whether it's TV or CBS or NBC or whatever. Just feel into it. Like, is this a feel good that's like not really giving me the programs that I want? And maybe I should just be more in tune with another human, right? Maybe a phone call to a friend, or a FaceTime, or making plans to go out and seeing other people. That's what's going to raise your oxytocin levels. I guarantee you. The eye contact with others, being present with others, hearing others, having others hear you and feeling validated. That's the good stuff. That's what's getting the oxytocin up and the cortisol levels down. So important. Okay, so I think I went on about that, about why I don't have a TV. And I do think that the subconscious programming that's happening while you're watching these programs night after night after night is huge. And if you're not really feeling into the messages and the storylines that are coming through and being infiltrated into your subconscious mind because you are in a relaxed state, you're not doing yourself good. You're doing yourself probably something more than you can imagine. And it's not about relaxing at that point. It's about, what am I programming my subconscious mind with? So I think I've talked about that enough. I know I feel like such a school teacher with a little ruler in her hand, but I just don't see a lot of value in a lot of these programs that are out there. So please use your discernment. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, do you have a guide for exploring psychedelics? I do. In fact, I just relaunched the Awakening and Healing Handbook with another psychedelic section in it. So that is available on bethbell.me. I'm also going to make it available separately, just in case you just want the psychedelics guide. But I highly encourage you to consider the whole Awakening and Healing Handbook, because there's so much in there. In the psychedelics guide section of the Awakening and Healing Handbook, I give so many resources about how to educate yourself. I don't get into every detail in the guide, but I give you every resource. And I also give you a guide as to what are the top 10 things that you need to know when you're thinking about scheduling a journey with someone. And these are my personal beliefs, my personal experience. And I really would encourage you to take a look at that, because there's some really important things that I think you need to know before going in. Just, as an example, if you don't have a server that is really, really well trained and understands the medicine, oftentimes these are people who have this in their ancestral lineage. You could be walking into a space that's maybe not that safe. And there are entities and there are other dimensions. And yes, while these are projections of your mind, they are things that can have an impact on you. So having the right setting and server are so important. And I talk a lot about that in this psychedelics guide that right now is within the Awakening and Healing Handbook. But if you look on my books page, I'll have another separate guide just for psychedelics that you can take a look at. There's resources of how to find guides. There's resources if you're experiencing a trip that you really need to integrate more and you don't have an integration coach. There's so much in there. It's jam-packed. I list websites that talk about all of the different modalities, but medicines, whether it's plant-based or some of the synthetic. There's just some incredible websites that are doing great work to provide tons of information on all of these. So you can get as deep as you want into the science, or as spiritual as you want. So yeah, please go to bethbell.me and you'll see that I do have a psychedelics guide there. Okay, here's some juicier stuff. Let's see. I'm dating a very wealthy woman. So I'm assuming this is coming from a man, and we seem to have a great connection. Sometimes it's a challenge for me because I'm not in her same wealth category. Any advice as to how I can prevent screwing up the relationship because of money? Yeah, this is a great question. And I think I also really find it fun to answer because the roles are a little bit reversed. A lot of times it's the women saying that the men are making more money. And so I love this, that this is, someone being a man being challenged with his masculine. And the first thing that comes to mind is emulate the template. If you're not in the same wealth stream, but you're exposing yourself to someone who is, energetically line up. I'm not saying do everything that they do. I'm not saying spend the money that they spend. Absolutely not. I'm saying line up with the energy of how it feels to be in their presence, assuming that they have a great wealth template, assuming that their wealth template is one of a vibration where they're not using their power with their wealth. And if they are using their power and wealth and they're screwing that all up, I would say get out of the relationship, because you don't want to be in a relationship where someone's going to be leveraging money as power in the romantic relationship. So that's, I guess, another way to look at it is find out right away in the beginning, observe it, feel it in your body. How does it feel like deep inside when I'm with this person, how they use their money, in the sense of how attached are they to their money? How do they feel about their money? Do they feel worthy of their money? Do they have an attachment to their money? Ask yourself all these questions, but then feel into your body, because it's this. Don't make it a mental game. If you make it a mental game, then you're not going to get the soul nudges and hits on this. Because a lot of times what happens in these types of relationships is we get a little bit like, ooh, starstruck, and we really enjoy the luxuries that perhaps we haven't had on our own. And then there's a little bit of a hook in there, and that hook becomes wanting to experience all the experiences that you can only have with them because of their wealth. And I'm just saying, have a little caution there, that it's about experiencing them as a person, not what they offer. And so I would also encourage that, if you haven't already, that you perhaps suggest a picnic, or something that resonates for you. I don't know, I wouldn't do a picnic either, but something that is on neutral ground, that doesn't require money, but it's an experience you can have with that other person. And then you can really get into their soul and see, like, well, okay, like all fancy stuff aside, like, how do we feel when we're in each other's presence? What do we talk about? There's just a lot to be said for having those quiet moments, maybe even just on a bench, if you're near the ocean or you're near a park, to go sit together and just sit with each other without anything from the outside. Just be in Mother Nature. I think that's always a really great way to see how you can connect with someone. Now, more specifically, because you're a man, and oftentimes the masculine runs a lot of energy wanting to, play the typical man role and to pay and all of that. And I would just say, talk about it, bring it up in the beginning. Just get right into the discussion of, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm not saying you have to tell them what your bank account balance is, but just say, this is where I'm at. Are you okay with that? And, I'd like to pay, but there's times when it might not be realistic for me to pay. And how do you feel about that? And how can we navigate that together? Having that conversation up front, I can guarantee will help the relationship down the road and long term. Because what happens is when we just don't speak our truth and we kind of sit back and we're like, oh, let me just see. It creates storylines that will definitely come out later. And, I'm thinking now about, this is a little bit different scenario because it was way back many, many years ago. But thinking about when I was married to Stuart, there was a time early on in our relationship when we were dating, and I had gone back to school and I wasn't making that much money. I was working a part-time job. I was full-time in school, and he was working a really great job and making good money. And I didn't even want to like pick the bottle of wine because I felt like, oh, I can't reciprocate. I could not buy him this bottle. So I don't want to suggest a certain bottle that I couldn't buy for him myself. Oh my goodness. It was such a crazy, crazy thing. And if I could have just like really felt into it and said, hey, I wouldn't be able to buy this bottle of wine myself, but if it's something that you feel good about in your budget, this is the wine that I would choose. Now, look, I'm making it up. I don't know that those would be the exact words. I'm just suggesting that if I could have used my voice and spoke up, I bet you he would have said, oh, honey, choose what you want, stay within this budget, and it's all good. And then I could have voiced my opinion. He could have known that I wasn't like hemming and hawing because I was indecisive. I was hemming and hawing because I didn't want to pick a bottle of wine that might be too expensive. And so if I would have just simply said, what's the price range you'd like to stay in? And he could have said, oh, $50. And I could have said, oh, okay, now I can go and I can look and I can choose from this. But instead I sat there. So again, I go on a little bit about that, but I just want to say that played a huge role about power, money, men in my life from something early on. And men typically love to support and to provide and to gift. So whether you're a man or a woman listening to this, just speak your truth, ask the questions and get on the same page. Just find out like, hey, where are you with this? And I think that the person that has the greater wealth will appreciate you for your honesty. Because when you're trying to be somebody you're not, and I'm not suggesting for this person writing the question that this is their situation at all, but if you're trying to be somebody that you're not, we always feel it. We always feel the vibration of an inauthentic person. And we know from the attraction, the love stages of love, I guess is what the thing, there's infatuation and there's attraction, and the attraction is being in their authentic self because they're happy, they're not calculated, they're not thinking in their head like, ooh, what do I need to say, what do I need to do? Like, no, that's all just so old school. Just get way, way, way over that. So for anyone out there that who's might be struggling with a difference in wealth status, show up for exactly who you are, be who you are, and just be your lovely self, and be honest and tell the truth. And if there's something that's not comfortable, find out early, because there's no reason to end up 2 years later or 10 years later, who knows how long later, and then realize that all of these little things made you feel in a way that created a disparity between the two of you. So yeah, thanks for asking that question. I think that's a good one. And step into your masculinity and just be honest about where you're at, communicate. And I bet you that if they're the right person for you, they will help you come up together. You'll come up with a plan as to how you can navigate when you're out at a fancy restaurant or a place that maybe you're not going to, want to or be able to foot the bill. So I don't think money has to be a negative in relationships. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. If there's any other clarifications that you want on that, if you happen to be with me live here, please just type it in the chat and I'll elaborate on it further. Okay, let's see here. I feel like I've fallen deeply in love with a man and really appreciate his masculine energy in my life. However, deep inside, I also know that he's not the one for me, as we have disparity in other categories. We're just different people, but I don't want to break up with him. What should I do? Should I speak my truth, and how do I do that? Well, okay, first of all, yes, speak your truth, but speak your truth to yourself. Go deep, find out what is it about this guy that is attracting me, because the chemistry is always about the wounds, and the chemistry can grow and become deeper in a very healthy way if the wounds are blowing up. But if the wounds aren't blown up, then they can just be bigger heartbreak issues in the end, and then become even bigger wounds in the next relationship. So speak the truth to yourself first. What is it about this guy Try not to get too heady about it. It might just be that, hey, I just have this feeling. And you don't necessarily have to say to him, I have this feeling that you're not the right guy. But you can just say, I'm just exploring this relationship right now. And I don't know where it leads, where it's going to lead to. I don't know that it's forever. I'm actually feeling that it might not be forever, but I'm enjoying my time with you. Are you okay with that? And then let them participate, right? Let them say, no, I really want to, I want to pursue this hard, fast, and go. And then you say, well, that's not exactly where I'm at right now. So maybe we're just at a different place in our life, because I'm really wanting to, and I'm just ad-libbing here, but I'm really wanting to just explore you as a person, right? So oftentimes that happens where one person is much more eager to move the process forward, or they're more infatuated than the other. And so all I'm suggesting is that you just be honest with yourself first, and then honest with them. So that will be really, really helpful as you navigate. And it might mean that you separate early in the relationship, or it might mean that you date multiple people. I know I don't like to do that either. A lot of times I'm just like, okay, I like to focus my time and energy on one person, but there's a reason. If you're not feeling it 100%, you're kind of like, I don't know. Don't ignore that feeling, because the mind will certainly come in and try to tell you all the reasons why. Oh, just stay, it's comfortable. Oh, I like the affection. Oh, I like the intimacy. And I'm not saying any of those things are bad. I'm just suggesting that the deeper you go with someone that you know that you don't have the deeper soulful alignment with, the harder it is to get out. And, honestly, the more time you waste. And it's really about learning the lesson. So it's probably a case where that person's in your life to help you speak your truth. That's potentially what the relationship is about, is for you to speak your truth, because that's hard to do, especially if we think we're hurting someone or we're suggesting something that they don't want. And that's where we got to just pull up our big girl and boy pants and just do it. We got to just talk about how we're feeling, when we're feeling it, because when you do, you will either trigger the other person and they will be running away, which is good because you'll be done with it early, or you'll see the depth in them and their ability to go, oh, okay, let me sit with you on that. Let me be with you on that. I get that. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a step back, or let me know, when I need to jump in, or, because it's that ebb and flow. It's not like you tell me when to do what. It's the feeling of feelings. And if you don't express them, they will turn into something else. And just always remember, I'm not suggesting this for your case, but anger is only suppressed emotion. So if you're someone who experiences anger, it's because of some emotion that you're not allowing yourself to feel. Feel them, go in, go deep. Person's here, they've got great chemistry with you, and they're here for a reason. So just figure it out and have fun. All right, the next question. Let's see what else we've got here. I've been on my spiritual journey for years. I feel like I've been doing the work forever. Gosh, doesn't that sound familiar? Do we ever get to a point where we can sort of stop all this spiritual work? Well, unfortunately, if you stop doing the spiritual work, you're dead. Even when you're dead, even when you're not in this human meat suit, you're still going to be doing the work, because your soul is eternal. You're going to be on another dimension, in another life. Who knows how quickly you'll come back onto planet Earth. And so the work actually doesn't ever end. But I think it's how we look at it. And perhaps something you could do is to reframe the word work. So it's more about having spiritual experiences and enjoying the experiences, as opposed to calling them work, right? So my relationship, oh, it's just hard work. I'm trying to get all the lessons. Well, maybe it's that you just have joy in the fact that you're in a relationship and that you are exploring someone, and that you look at it as fun to see like what's coming next. It makes me think to tell a story about, and maybe I've told this before, but when I was working in Asia Pacific, I was based in Singapore, but I'd fly to different countries in the APAC region. And I remember being in the Indian offices, and at lunch, there was a small group of us that were there to talk business, but it was also casual enough where I just felt I had this burning question, and I felt like I was boldly going to ask, and I hoped that it wouldn't be inappropriate. And I framed it as best I could by asking if it was okay to ask a somewhat of a personal question. And I asked one of the gentlemen, and I said, you can decline to answer if it's not comfortable, but was your marriage arranged? And he said yes, with a big smile on his face. And I just kind of went, oh my goodness, like, how does this happen? I just was thinking like it was something that maybe was from before. And I'll try to tell the story really quick. It was a beautiful answer, and one that I just so cherish to this day. He basically said, our parents look for other families that have children that they think would be a great match for us. And they suggest that we meet, and we do have the opportunity to say no. He's like, but that's so huge to know that the families get along before we've even agreed to get married. It's like, so that's like a big check right there, that we know that because the families have done this arrangement, that they're going to get along, and that there's a lot of beautiful things that can come out of that. I was like, okay, well, that's really interesting, isn't it? And then he said, this was so beautiful. He said, Beth, when my wife, it was arranged at the time, but when my wife walked in, he's like, I just looked at her and I just thought, I hope she says yes, because I knew that she was right for me. So he had this, really great match, and she said yes. And he said, and then I knew that my only job was to explore her soul and get to know her and get to know her soul. And I just thought, oh, how beautiful is that? And he said, I look at a lot of the Westerners and I see that, you have all of this freedom to go dating and meet all these people, whatever. He said, but you guys built these lists and these expectations of a partner and what they should do and not do and look like and feel like and smell like and sound like. He's like, and then you get all caught up in all of these ideas. And it's almost like no one could meet that level of expectation as a partner. And I was just like, you're so right. You're so right. So it changed my perspective forever. And I think it was probably soon after that I really started to talk about how important it was for us to hold each other's soul like a fragile egg, because that's what it's about. It is about connecting with someone's soul. And yes, we have preferences. And yes, there's things that can be annoying about another person. But can we just do it in fun? Can we do it in pleasure? Can we say, hey, it annoys me when you leave the toilet seat up, and move on? And then if it doesn't happen and the person's like, hey, I really feel like you're not listening to me. It's just one thing that would be really helpful for me to just not have to see, right? And then it builds respect and communication. But so I'm not saying that there aren't things that annoy us and, ways of thinking, but I just loved how the foundation of what he was suggesting of the soul alignment and just getting to know the person's soul and watching them grow, right? So watching them change, as opposed to like watching them change, oh, we're growing apart, but really just sitting in the beauty of having another human be part of your journey and your experience here in this life. So gosh, I digress. I think, did I answer the question? Okay, so fallen deeply in love with a man, appreciate his masculine energy in life. Deep inside, I also know that he's not the one for me. As we have disparity in other categories, well, I guess think about what are the categories? How big of a deal is it? Is it coming from your mind? Is it like silly things? Or is it like bigger things like I believe in God and you don't, right? So everything else could be a match, but if that's something that's coming forward, and I'm just using that somewhat figuratively, meaning that one thing could have a lot of weight in your life. If it's something that is like a soul alignment, something that's like, this is me, this is what's important for me, and I need this connection to be with my mate, my partner, then that's not one that you're gonna That's a non-negotiable. So figure out what are your non-negotiables and what are your negotiables, because there isn't someone that's 100% always gonna, do and say and be exactly what you want them to be. It would be impossible. It wouldn't be any fun. So yeah, but I would say do it earlier rather than later. Don't just stick around because it's comfortable. I think that's the thing that a lot of people do. A lot of women, no, a lot of men, both sexes, because nobody wants to be alone, and a lot of people don't like to be on the dating scene. But you want to be with someone who's really catapulting you in life, not someone who's here to hold you back or to make you, walk through quicksand or learn the same lesson over and over and over again. Like, get the lessons and move on or move in, right? I guess that would be the way I would summarize that one. All right, let's see here. Is there any other live questions in the chat? Okay. I've been on my spiritual journey. I feel like I've been doing the work forever. Do we ever get to the point where we can sort of stop all the spiritual work? Oh my goodness. So now I've overlapped the questions again here. Yeah, I don't think we ever stop the spiritual work. So there we go. It's always happening. It's always ongoing. Embrace it. All right. So I was diagnosed with herpes and I'm struggling to date. It's so difficult to think about having the discussion, and it's easier to not put myself out there. However, I really do want to find a life partner. Any advice? Yes, tons of advice. Oh my goodness. Like, why did I put it on the front of my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics? Not to make everybody feel uncomfortable and have their hair stand up on the back of their head. Or maybe I did actually, because we got to get through this. Like, look, if you had the flu, people would be bringing you chicken soup and coddling you and like, how can I help you? And what can I do? We got to get there with the herpes virus. Just because it happens to impact the genitals, we got to go beyond this. We got to go way beyond the leper story in the Bible. And we've got to find ways to get, as a society, beyond chastising people for this virus. I think, and I've said this and talked about this so many times, and I have a bunch of videos on this YouTube channel and a playlist for herpes. Please listen. I talked to some other really amazing souls who have really great advice. You got to get beyond your own mind and your own judgment of what you think this means, because we saw with COVID how much virus shame played a role early on. Not so much now, but early on. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. It's like, no, people, if we're struggling with something, then we need to tell people. And the reality is that when we're moving into a new relationship, you should not have the herpes discussion. You should have the full-blown, where are you at on your journey discussion, along with, let's talk about sexually transmitted diseases as a whole. Let's talk about how many sexual partners we've had. Let's talk about all of those details. Those to me are more important. Knowing where someone's at, how long have they been out of a relationship? Not to be about judgment, but to just be about like, oh, let me just see where your soul is with your own healing and your own heartbreak. And are you ready to go into a relationship? Are you ready to be in an intimate sexual relationship with me? Because they may not be. They may want to be, but they may just be on the rebound. They just may be like, their soul may be fragmented and they're just all over the place. So have all these conversations first. Have these deeper, soulful conversations. I don't care how strong the chemistry is. That can wait. You can tantrically utilize that chemistry without having the sexual intimacy or the sexual intercourse. Talk to your partner, your person you're dating. Talk about it up front. Some people want to use the strategy, oh, let me get them to fall in love with me first. You can, but nobody likes to hear about this stuff down the road. People want to know that you're in your truth now, every day, that if you can speak to them in your truth now, that whenever they need you, you'll speak your truth. You'll tell them the truth. And that, my friend, is the most important thing you can do in a relationship, is speak your truth. It doesn't mean you go out and you tell everybody. It doesn't mean you publish a book that has it on the cover. No, you don't have to do all that. But You got to be in that place where you've built your own confidence about who you are as a person, about your sexual history, about your sexual partners, about your last breakup, about what your struggles still are on your soul's journey. What are you still here to heal? What are you still grappling with? What are my spiritual lessons that I feel like I'm still walking through? Have those discussions first. Talk about, like, what do I fear? Where am I good at loving? Talk about those things. It naturally leads into some of these discussions of, hey, I've really had to work through a lot of trauma in my life. And that trauma was when I got herpes from blah, blah, blah in this situation. And this happened to me. And this is how I felt. And this is how I feel now. And I'm still not over it, or I'm over it, or I want to get over it. I fear rejection. I get it. You might not want to be with me because of it, but I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about it now. I can't tell you how much credibility you are going to get with that other person. And you don't know. They may say to you, oh, I have it too. And you go, oh my God, then there's nothing really to worry about. I don't think there's anything to worry about either way, but we got to get through this. And if they say to you something stupid or ridiculous or reject you or make you feel terrible or ghost you, thank them for getting out of your life early, because you don't want to be with that kind of person anyway. And it might just be that it's their fear. I'm not saying that they're a bad person because they ghosted you. It's just they have their own triggers and their own fear. And just say thank you. Thank you for showing me where you're at right now in your journey, because that's not where I'm at. And I want to be somewhere else with someone that I'm going to be in sexual relationship with. So please, let's get beyond this. This is just not something we need to hold in our bodies, this trauma, this virus shame. No. So herpes playlist here, lots of videos, lots of great people I've talked to in discussion, and tons of resources. Also, Awakening and Healing Handbook has some stuff in there. Yeah, you can get through it. I am here to cheerlead you every step along the way to say you can make it. This is not the worst thing that's happened to you. I'm not wishing anything more to happen to you. I'm just saying you can get beyond this. All right, let's see. Oh gosh, we're almost down to the wire. Let's see. I think we can get one more question in. Okay, so when my boyfriend leaves, I feel drained. Why? Well, that's kind of a vague one. I don't know exactly what's happening when your boyfriend's there. I don't know what your relationship is, but I'm assuming perhaps that you're a higher vibrational being and you're on the journey, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be in my show, Unravel Your Mind. You probably wouldn't be looking to transform your relationships to love and life. I would say that you're probably more of an empath than you think. And you're probably taking on a lot of your partner's energy. And I'm also assuming, because you didn't say that you didn't like them, so I'm assuming that you actually like them and that you enjoy spending time with them. It's just that when they leave, there's a bit of a depletion. And so that's really, again, about using discernment and about really understanding about taking, giving and receiving, right? Like, what's that energetic pull, and what's the masculine, feminine, what's the light, dark polarity that's happening in this relationship. It might be that they're a light sucker. It might be that they're an emotional vampire, knowingly or unknowingly. Like, we're not saying this to judge them or to say that they're good or that they're bad or right or wrong. No, it's just you have to have the discernment and feel into, why am I exhausted? It might be your mind. It might be that your mind is making up all these different stories and you're trying to get something from them that they're not giving you. And I mean, there's so many different variables here. But what I would say is that if you are feeling that complete exhaustion in your body, do not ignore it. I would suggest perhaps a little time out, so that you can just feel more deeply into your body and ask your body, why am I being so drained in this relationship? If you don't ask yourself the questions, nobody else can tell you. I can tell you to listen to what they're saying to you, listen to what your body's saying to you. Try not to listen to the mind, because that one's a bit crazy. Those are all the things that are, around judgment and the lower vibrational thought constructs. Like, you don't need to spend time there. Just go into your heart, close your eyes, meditate, see how you feel, ask the questions, show me, show me what it is that I need to know about myself or this person, because maybe they're in a great way bringing up some deep darkness in you. Maybe they're triggering you, and maybe that's not bad. Maybe that's great. Maybe that gets you into an energy where you have something to explore and something that you've asked them to really, you've called them in to ask them to take this out from the depths of your cellular membrane and throwing it out to the light. And then when that goes out, we know when the darkness goes out, more light comes in. So it's beautiful, beautiful thing. All right, we are down to the wire here. I think we will do a little bit of a closeout. I'm so happy you're here. If you're watching this on replay, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please write questions. You didn't miss anything if you're listening to this on replay, because I will look at all the questions you might be asking. I will answer them next week. You can always find the live Zoom link to be able to participate and ask your question in my Facebook page, Beth Bell, in the YouTube channel here, Beth Bell Live, on my Instagram at Queen Bliss B. So there's lots of places that you can find. It's in the description below. Copy, paste it into your calendars, 11:11 a.m. Pacific time every Sunday. I'm here. Happy to hear what you have to say and the questions that you have to help you continue to ascend on this beautiful awakening journey, as so much is happening and it's such a beautiful time in humanity. So I hope you'll join me next week. I am sending so much love and light out to all of you, and we will be in touch. Please comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll get notifications of when I'm going live next. It's a great way for us to stay in connection. So enjoy the week.